Hello and welcome back to this new section. Here we are going to create a family out of inanimated objects using what I've told you about how these objects are used and what kind of associations we have with them. So we are going to create a family of maybe glasses, and we're going to have a beer glass that will be the male figure, the father, and we are going to have this line here of a very bulky father, beer drinking father, and from a beer glass. So how do we create a glass? So now let's signify in our composition what the father is going to be, and create an egg shape. This is our beer glass. You would say, well, this cannot be. Well, it can. What I'm going to show you here is not only how to create a character or beer glass, but how to make the character, the glass, appear cartoony and have a big beer belly, and how to support this design of the glass with helplines with spheres. We've talked about already that we always will look at the character from straightforward, because this is the best perspective and gives the best silhouette for our character. So in this way, the upper part is going to be slightly small of the beer glass, and it's going to be turned towards us like in a bulky kind of way. And we want the stomach of the beer glass to be chunkier. So we are going to create another sphere here as a helpline. Even though we already have this egg shape here, as you see, that is already helping us where this stomach is going to be. And we're going to have the foot of the beer glass. We're going to go for another ellipse shape like that. And here we have kind of a top, middle, and bottom. So now we are going to connect these spheres, and we are going to use both these helplines and this egg-shaped sphere so that we've drawn already to help us draw the beer glass as a bulky male beer drinking character. At the same time as we are going to think of a glass, how does beer glass look like? You can find some references of how a beer glass will look like, but I'm just going to use this a very general kind of reference of a beer glass with these chunky sections in the middle and a really chunky handle, big chunky handle. So this is going to be our father, and you see we only followed these helplines that we've designed, and as soon as you learn how to draw with the blue pencil and how to design these helplines and not to be afraid to try out, your job will become so much easier. And now we want the face of the father to be around here, so doodle it out like a space kind of thing, and this is going to be his stomach. And we are going to design then the handle on the back of this character. So let's have the handle as another egg-shaped shape, and this is going to be this chunky handle. So basically, we have this all figured out already. Now let's design maybe a little bit of how the beer glass will look like. So they have this chunky shape on the top, and we're going to design that. And you see this line follows a little bit this line, although it gets a little narrower the closer we get to the middle, because we are looking from the glass from the front. So this is going to be this chunky part of the beer glass, and then we're gonna have this kind of section go down the way, and that's going to be another chunky part. Very roughly just design some kind of a common beer glass that you remember, that if they tell you beer, that's what you would think of, that they will bring your beer in. Very roughly, and leave it like that. So now let's get the facials in. And what do this beer glass have? What kind of characteristics a drinking father have? We want to have a father that is caring, but he would have maybe a big nose forward. So let's design another sphere for the nose. And you know, if you drink a lot of beer, you get a big red nose. So we're even gonna design a nostril here. And the glass is turned a little bit 3/4. It means that it's not face towards us, but a part of the face is hidden. So if the nose is really big, this other nostril will be approximately here, and the part of the nose that sticks out will cover it. And if this is just nose sticking out. So where are the eyes of this father? It's approximately here. And remember what we said, if we want something to appear bigger, we'll make other parts in comparison being smaller. Like now we don't have really a body for this character because it's just an inanimated object. So we'll have to invent how the body will look like and where the body is gonna be. You can put even this face over here, it's up to you how you want this character to be. I'm going to put some eyes over here on this father, and I'm gonna have him have these bags under his eyes. And what else can we have? Now you just see I scribble around, but this is my thinking process, and I hope you follow me here in this thinking process, because that's how it goes. You just design everything at the same time, and then you rough it out a little more, and then when you have it done, you just go up with the black pencil and refine it. And this father is going to have big eyebrows, bushy eyebrows. So I'm going to have another chunky spheres for the eyebrows here, and he's going to have these big mustaches. So I'll say, well, these mustaches are going to be around this area. I mean, we have now just drawn spheres and we've made character out of that. So what are the mustaches? If this is the middle line of the character, because this is the spine, and this is the middle line, approximately here, and it's symmetrical with the spine. Now I've moved the face a little bit to this side, because this could have been the center of our image, but I've moved it a little bit because I thought it's going to be more interesting if we see this round shape, and the bulkiness will look better if we have the stomach being over here and he's like showing off in this way, so the silhouette gets better. And you can do that. There are no rules of where you should put the face. You can always put it whatever you wanted, but you'll have to keep the lines loose and you have to try it out before you actually find your character. So I'm going to design one mustache here and another one here. Remember, if I have the middle line here, that separates the face into symmetrical parts. So from that point on, you can easily find the symmetry. And this part of the face will be slightly smaller because there is a perspective change going this way. So this chunk of mustache will be slightly smaller than this one, and just shape it out as an egg shape. And now when we have that, we can end up the mustache here with a slight triangle and connect it to this line of the sphere or egg-shaped ellipse. And the same one here. And this mustache, it will stick out a little bit. And we will have now, you know that when you have mustaches, you can see a part of the lip underneath the mustaches over here. So now let's design the eye to give some life to this character. And you remember, for cartoony characters, even though a character is a grown-up, just drawing round eyes and giving them a little bit of a crossed eye look, give them this cartoony, childish-like look that children would like. They would recognize themselves even in a bulky, chunky beer glass because they look like them. They look like kids. And now it's easy to shape the features. Now follow this sphere and draw the nostril. And now we have, you see that this sphere is designing the nose. It's just given. And where's the sphere? It's behind here, but what do we see? We see part of the nostril. So just draw that, this part of the nostril. Let's shape the mustaches. And they're just given because we have just did our homework before that. And now we can have some element here, make a chunk of hair for the mustaches. So they become more alive. They become more cartoony. Now you're allowed to give texture and graphic elements to your character, like this chunk of hair, to symbolize that this is a really thick hair. And maybe we can have the mouth open and just shade it a little bit for the later on to help yourself see that his mouth is open and this is a lip. And all we did was everything, prepare that just with spheres. And let's get this handle, some volume, so it's going to be a thick handle. You just repeat this line that is over here. Repeat it a little bit now or next to the glass body, and it disappears behind. It's going to be on the other way around. It's going to be behind, and again this character will not have hands. Okay, so we have our father character, and let's start polishing it with the black pencil. So now it's just party time. Now it's just games, because it's easy. You don't have to wonder where things are. Things are given to you. And I'm repeating it over and over because that is so important. I've seen that even from my previous lectures. Some of my students, I'm very proud of my students because you guys do some amazing stuff. It's so encouraging to see how you progress. But some of you are still just afraid of doing these blue lines and afraid that you're gonna mess up. So that's why I want you to see and to know that each character, no matter what you draw, these blue lines, these spheres, if you learn to do them and without fear, they will help you get your design ready before you even start doing it. You can explore things like that. You can test it out. So don't be scared to do that. So now these bushy eyes, I can do some chunks of hair, the same thing that I did here, and I didn't even have to have them done with the blue line, because now I can explore the shapes, they're given to me, and I can just add these features, and I'll shade them black. It's black bushy eyes, and I go from one detail to the other because processing is enjoyable. You should jump like that from one detail to the other, because if you get stuck to only one detail, you may lose the sense of proportion and move to the character is. So just leave one detail, go do something here and do something there, and just go back to more final details, because our brain works this way, that you get stuck if you just start polishing one thing. Your brain just zooms in here. It's like a photographic lens, and starts enlarging things. And this is also typical if you start doing it from maybe starting designing character from the eyes, and then you just keep on adding details here and you forget about the whole. Your eyes start getting bigger and bigger, and you finally find out that you don't have any place to put the body, and say, well, how this happened? You know, I thought I was in control. So now these bags under the eyes, you see how the father gets chunkier, it gets maley, or You know what I mean? Like, we recognize these kind of guys that drink beer, have mustaches, and goofy kind of guys, comfortable, nice, goofy fathers that are drinking beer and watching, maybe, I don't know, football. This is this archetype thing that I'm talking about. It's just so easy to design characters when you know, when you try to have an archetype in the back of your mind. And the thing is that if you have that for your book or something, you can break these archetypes by giving a certain look of your character and then surprising the viewer with having the character do something completely different than what his or her archetype will suggest. Like, for example, having this father not watching films, actually watching fashion shows. You know, you wouldn't think that a father will drink beer and watch fashion shows on TV. And thus will alert your viewers, like, wait a minute, who is this character? That's interesting. And why is he acting this way? So you give more depth to your character by breaking these rules. And now we're just shaping the real inanimated object, basically, because we can forget that this is not just a character, this is also a beer glass. That's what's so fun, to make inanimated objects as characters, because they're so simple. You don't have to think about anatomy of a human body. You just have to design a cup, and you see now that we did this bulky cup like that. I mean, you can't see the real cup, the real glass, I mean. You can't see the real beer glass like that, but we designed it like that. And now it looks like he's a chunky guy. Now let's have some foam, beer foam popping up. You can do it with a blue pencil again, just rough it out like small chunks of spheres like that, because it's going to be just a symbolic foam. We are not going to draw photorealistic foam. Now we draw every single bubble popping out. We are going to look for this shape over here, and this sphere, and this sphere, and maybe this sphere, just a bunch of spheres like that. And if you see the whole of it, it will look like a beer foam, like a collective amount of bubbles and not just one bubble at a time. Yeah, there was a time when I was a beginner and I didn't know which detail I would choose to bring forward, what kind of and how would my character look better, you know, how many details I had to do for something to stick out as a beer foam, for example. And this is something that this lecture can be helpful with. Where is the balance? What do I need to do for this to look good? So you don't have to do the whole beer foam. This one is enough. And just add some shading at the bottom, so to signify that this glass is standing on the ground. And this beer foam actually looks like the father's hair. So this is also an element that can contribute to your design. So we'll shade the mustache black, but if you're working on a program or in a digital program or shading, or you're coloring it later on, you can do that and just fill it up with darker color, brown or black, and it's going to add some contrast to the beer glass. Maybe you can add some beer here, but because now we're having black and white drawing, it's going to be just messy, so I'm going to leave that out. But if you color it, maybe you add half of the glass like a beer glass and it's transparent. So here we have our male character. Now let's design the mom, and what kind of glass is she going to be? Let's do that in the next lecture.